Welcome to Straight Talk. The government has responded to concerns about increasing foreign land ownership of New Zealand farmland. But do the policy changes go far enough to satisfy both farmers and the general public? Will the new tests of economic benefit and strong New Zealand involvement provide large enough hurdles to suppress some of the recent interest from eager buyers whose motives have been questioned? Federated Farmers seems happy, describing it as an elegant solution. But elegant for whom? And recent massive lamb losses down south, which have stressed farmers, have raised questions about farming practices in an unpredictable climate. Do changes need to be made? Today I'm joined by lawyer and journalist Catriona MacLennan and Sir Bruce Slane, who's fronting the Save the Farms campaign. Now, Bruce, with the changes that the government has made, how far do you see these going towards what is a solution for all New Zealanders?
Well, I don't think they go very far at all. In fact, I think the Minister Finance made it clear that what he was worried about was large tracts of land, multi-farm sales, and that he wanted to be able to do something about that, and also about what he describes as vertical integration, where overseas interests own the land, run the farm, run the processing, distribute the product overseas.
Do you think that the government is trying to please too many people with the changes it's made?
Well, they started off saying that they wanted to make it easier for overseas investment in New Zealand. And this worried me when it came to farmland because I couldn't see any benefit that foreign investors bring to farming. We've got all the expertise, we've got all the experience, we've got the state research and everything that's gone with it. What will someone from overseas, an absentee owner, bring to New Zealand?
Now, Catriona, what do you think the general view is out there amongst the wider public? Do they share some of Bruce's concerns?
Well, I think this has come to a head, obviously, with the cray for farms, and I think the government's really been caught out because, as Bruce said, when they started the review of the legislation, they were looking at making it easier for foreigners to buy land, and the cray for farms has really brought this to a head. I think because we, the public, didn't actually know how much land was being sold to foreigners, and I mean, I just think it's economic suicide. What's the benefit to New Zealand? Once it's sold, we're never going to be able to afford to buy it back again. And, you know, Bruce has mentioned vertical integration and countries and companies that are interested in that, which obviously some of those wanting to buy land are, there's just no benefit to New Zealand in it. So, yeah, I think the government's been caught out and had to basically flip around completely from looking at loosening to looking at tightening. But the announcements they've made leave things pretty uncertain because what the government said is it's going to provide a letter to the Overseas Investment Office, but we don't know what that's going to say yet. So I think it's pretty unclear, which is not only unsatisfactory for New Zealanders, but also for foreigners who are interested in buying land in New Zealand.
Because they might not know where they stand.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's unfair to them. It would be better to say, no, you know, you're not going to be able to do it. At least that gives them clarity.
Yeah.
The trouble is the policy development has taken place solely behind closed doors. It's been done by Treasury. They got a few submissions. They invited people to make submissions. We don't know what the powerful lobby groups have said, like the Business Roundtable, Federated Farmers, Fonterra. What have they been saying should happen? And now there's proposed to be a letter written which we're only going to see when after it's been written. Why can't that be discussed? Why can't that be out in the open? I'm sure there is a variety of views, and Save the Farms want a debate. They don't want a set solution, they want a debate, and the public are entitled to have that debate.
Can you tell us a bit more about the formation of the group, Bruce, how it sprang up?
Well, I'd already sounded off on Jim Mora's program in the afternoons on National Radio about the issue, and I was speaking to a friend, and he said, "Oh, I'm in this group," and so I was invited to meet the group, and it seemed they were very open. They had no axe to grind. The founder was prepared to bring around a limited number of people, prepared to help fund the campaign. and it seemed to me an excellent campaign because it was saying, look, just halt everything now and let's have a look at the policy, let's have a public debate. But no, the government just went ahead and came out with a policy which I don't think is going to make much difference.
Well, moving on, Catriona, the recent events down south where sheep farmers have endured high stock losses. The Minister of Agriculture, David Carter, he's described it as those farmers going through sheer hell. But there's some questioning of why this appears to happen fairly regularly.
Yes, I think I've been monitoring this for about a decade now, and it does seem to be that very regularly there's heavy snow in spring and hundreds of thousands of lambs die, and it seems to always be reported as being unexpected and unusual, but I think if you look at the weather patterns, that's not actually the case. And, you know, I think it's heartbreaking to see just about every spring these pictures of hundreds of thousands of dead lambs, you know, their bodies just tossed into a big pile. So I think it's bad on animal welfare grounds, and also it seems to me it's extremely bad economically for farmers because they get $1 for those dead lambs and they'd get $95 if they could keep the lambs alive for longer. So I'm surprised that farmers haven't done anything about it. And you know, I'm obviously not a farmer, but by doing not that much research, I'm able to make 5 different suggestions that could be looked at. Right. And that would be delaying the start of lambing, providing shelter in barns, providing trees, shelter belt, or feeding the lambs dextrose glucose, or you can actually purchase little either wool or plastic coats for the lambs. And these are not things I've come up with, I'm obviously a townie, but these are things that people working in the rural sector have suggested, and some of these suggestions are specifically from Southland. So
some of those ideas, they have been around for quite a long time, haven't they, like shelter belts? Do you think perhaps now there's the chance with younger farmers coming through that they might make more changes in this farm management level of things?
I'd like to think that, but I have to say I haven't really seen evidence of that yet. It just seems that when urban people criticise farming practices in New Zealand, we're just dismissed as townies and told that we should come down and get out in the snow. But I really don't think that's the issue. And I think that it's important for farmers to take account of what people in urban areas are saying, because obviously we're the market for these farmers' goods, and farmers are well aware that there is a growing groundswell of concern about animal welfare issues, not only dead lambs but battery hens, sow stalls for pigs. And it's not just in New Zealand. Obviously export markets are very important for us, and farmers are well aware that in Europe and America there are these concerns as well.
What do you think, Bruce?
Well,
I mean, the animal welfare concerns, they've been around for some time. They seem to get stronger and stronger.
Yeah, and I've seen this criticism from reading Farmers Weekly that there are people who have reduced the shelter belts, have cut out the trees, have reduced the opportunities for a safe environment for them having lambing.
That might be economic pressures that might be, drawing them to that conclusion.
But maybe it was a short-term view.
And certainly, Catriona, that's something you'd like to see turned around the other way.
Absolutely, and I think also farmers need to bear in mind the Animal Welfare Act 1999, and actually they're laying themselves open to prosecution under Section 4 of that Act, because that plainly lays a duty on farmers to provide adequate shelter for animals, and it's quite plain that adequate shelter is not being provided to the lambs and the ewes. And it actually goes further than that. I mean, I find it distressing when I drive out of Auckland in the summer to see these animals in paddocks with absolutely no shelter at all, and the same in the middle of winter, there's no shelter from the wind. And you know, how difficult or expensive can it be to plant a few trees?
Yeah, well, certainly no farmer wants to bear the cost of prosecution. Thanks. Coming up after the break, what's the latest with the Land and Water Forum's report? And is Labour playing party politics, agitating to take GST off the price of our fruit and veg? Stay with us. Welcome back to Straight Talk. Now it's on to You Said It, comment in the ag media, which we want to talk about further. Now, Bruce, Fonterra announced its result for last season last week, a very good result, but there have been letters, I saw some in the Christchurch press, with people concerned about milk prices going up, saying this was all the benefit they were getting. Is there an uncomfortable relationship having such a large entity as Fonterra in our midst that New Zealand's fortunes are so dependent on now?
Well, frankly, we can't have it both ways. If we're going to have a large entity to compete internationally, then we're obviously going to have the consequences if they're successful and milk prices rise and they are selling internationally, those prices will be reflected back in New Zealand. I think that is a cost we have to consider, but how we deal with it is not to break down Fonterra or stop exporting.
No. So consumers have just got to get real, perhaps?
I think so, yes. I think we want to be satisfied, though, that the price that's being charged in New Zealand is a fair one. And maybe Fonterra need to prove to us that that is the case, that they're not exploiting the local market.
Yeah. What do you think, Catriona? It would be a good PR exercise, wouldn't it, to perhaps sell New Zealanders milk produced in their own country a bit cheaper?
I don't think that's Fonterra's strategy from what I've seen, but I think that that also, you know, highlights how important it is to hang on to our own land, going back to our previous topic. And also, as we've been talking about for, would it be at least 30 years, you know, extracting all the value that we can from what we produce rather than selling bulk stuff overseas for other people to process and earn the added value from.
Right.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah.
And Fonterra also talked about some pretty ambitious plans in China. 10 to 20 more farms over there. Bruce, this brings up a sort of a reverse side of what you're talking about with your campaign, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well,